of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do? You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
What's up, film fans? Welcome to episode 273. Welcome to Oppenheimer, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Juan, and you are, guys, joined by the cast, the crew. Ed?
What's up?
Zach?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Zach doing his best impression of a Blu-ray there.
I know. Hey, listen.
Hey,
4K ultra high definition.
You know, guys, we are still stuffed from this past weekend with Thanksgiving. Ed looks like he's about to go on a lumberjack spree. And Zach, you look like you just got done coming back from Black Friday shopping.
Yeah.
What a week it's been. What a weekend. For those of you joining us live on Emaswa Productions, thank you for this Sunday evening edition of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. Everybody who's listening to this out there in podcast land, happy Wednesday. So, guys, can you believe this is it? This is the final episode of November. We're just a few days away from December and on to Christmas.
Well, oh God. At least they started playing music around the time the bird was done. That's all I got to say.
Hopefully the bird was done. Can you guys imagine eating bird that's not done?
I had 2 birds at my Thanksgiving. Just saying.
Oh, there you go.
Did you save some for everybody else?
Oh yeah, others got some plenty. They got leftovers too. Don't worry about that.
Who had the better bird?
I'd say the duck.
The duck the duck was the best.
It was different.
Yeah.
Never had duck before, so
Nice.
Has a very distinct taste to it.
it's yeah.
A little too greasy for me.
Fair enough.
That being said, welcome to our 2023 version of Barbenheimer. Last week, guys, if you didn't listen, we talked about Barbie last week. We had some special guests, and we also had Ella joined us for the conversation last Wednesday. So go back and listen to Barbie wherever you listen to podcasts. You can always check us out always on the social media, facebook.com/the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. X is at Cinnamon405. And then you can email us as well at cinemen921@gmail.com. You can find all the links to all of our past episodes. Hit us up in the archives. And again, you can always watch us live here on Emaswa Productions YouTube channel and on demand.
Tap in. That's all. Just tap in.
Just tap it in. So last week was a fun episode, Barbie. If you guys did not check it out, I highly recommend it. Go listen to it. You can also go get that movie still on Cyber Monday. For those of you that are watching on Sunday, it's only $10. So go check it out because it's still not streaming on Max yet, but I heard it might be on Max by Christmas. So
Yeah, early part of December, probably right before Christmas. Yeah.
We kind of cut the news segment out. I don't think we mentioned it last week though, Zach. But how about Scream 7 is in complete shambles right now after
bad stuff, man. I mean,
and
one of your leading ladies was fired, and the other one has other obligations. So they're saying now it could just be another reboot, essentially.
I heard that
need to bring Stu back.
Neve Campbell still is like on. She doesn't want to come back either. Yeah, so I don't know. But I think it's funny that Ortega all of a sudden announced that she has other obligations the day after.
It was due to that. It was because of that firing. Like that's Wednesday. Not even like. Come on now. No, not due to Wednesday. I'm sure she has that stuff too, but I'm sure she would have made time. But since the forget her name at the moment. But since the other girl was fired for her, statements, then I'm sure she was like, well, if she's not there, then I'm not there, kind of thing.
Right.
And I mean,
Right.
I get sticking by your friend or sticking by, what you believe in or whatever have you, but dang,
Did you
man,
did you read the statements?
not much. No, I know it has to do with overseas stuff. I know that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of
Yeah. Yeah.
overseas, Zach, let's oversee some of your recent watches this past weekend. You have anything you want to recommend?
No, man. Other than Oppenheimer, watched Elf on the Max, so go check that out for Christmas. We'll probably be talking about that here in a couple weeks.
I hope you find
Um,
your dad.
Why will we be talking about that in a few weeks, Zach?
well, here in a couple weeks, guys, we're probably gonna do like official go through the schedule, but for our last episode of December, we're gonna do our top 5 plus 5 Christmas movies. So I'm sure that we'll be making plenty of lists. And then continuing to watch Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV.
Oh,
So it's pretty
I
good.
I want to see that so badly. I've seen a few screenshots, and that's it. But looks
It's
good.
pretty cool. So yeah,
Oh,
go
I've
check out
heard.
Monarch, and then go check out Elf on the Max. Max it up.
I checked out Violent Night, David Arboff from last year's is pretty fun movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Santa?
Christmas, Bloody Christmas. I did watch episode 1 of Monarch, Zach. I did like it a lot. Apple has this thing where you can watch any season 1, episode 1 for free.
Yep.
So if you don't have Apple TV Plus and you're thinking about it, you can go watch episode 1 of Monarch for free.
Is it worth it though?
It's
Is
worth
that
it.
I think it's worth it. I think it's
Yeah.
worth it. Yeah.
like what?
But you got to
what would
remember, I'm the Godzilla fan, so I mean.
No, not like that. But I mean, like Apple TV. You know what I mean? Like
Oh.
it like okay with Hulu, I've got my main kind of things that I watch on there, but then I've got some other things that I find, and I'm like, oh shit. Like with Apple TV, like say like a movie or two and a recommendation or something like that to say, you know what, that might.
You mean just as Apple TV as a whole? I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do have good production value. I mean, they do have a Best Picture winner with Coda. I mean, they have Killers of the Flower Moon and then Napoleon, which came out this week. So I mean, the big thing that draws people to Apple TV is Ted Lasso, which I haven't seen, but I've heard amazing things about it. So it just depends. So
I mean, there's a couple that you spit already mixed
the
with
prehistoric
Monarch. That was
the prehistoric planet, which is kind of like a Planet Earth with David Attenborough, is pretty good. The visuals are way better than anything in Jurassic World Dominion. So, So, like I said, if you can find something on there, they do have other things like documentaries and like any other streaming service. So,
okay.
But yeah, Monarch is on Apple TV. Highly recommend it. Oppenheimer watched it for the first time since the theater. I think it's just a matter of time until that's also announced, probably for Peacock as well, since that's a Universal movie, right?
Yeah, probably.
Checked out Jingle All the Way, getting ready for some Christmas.
Oh, that gave me heartburn. You just mentioning that. Oh.
So you're saying it's going to be your number 1 for that list?
That thing is rotting in hell, and Satan doesn't even know it's there. In my honest thoughts, it is rotting in hell. And Sinbad should make Shazam, and say he didn't remember making that. Like, saying.
All right. So,
you know what? That keeps popping up on my social media. I looked. He did not make it.
Okay, but don't get me wrong. I am one of those who distinctly remembers watching Kazam with Shaq and Shazam with Sinbad. Distinctly.
Supposedly, Jonathan Taylor Thomas was in that movie with Sinbad, and I went back and looked at both the filmographies, and it's not even anywhere near. It's not listed at all.
But you can find. It takes a minute, but you can find footage from there, because, dude.
Maybe it was one of those movies that got started. They released the trailer, and we saw the trailer, but it never got released.
He says he didn't do anything with it. Sinbad says he did not a single thing with a movie called, related to, or even about a genie, Shazam, or anything. But I personally, I'm in that Mandela effect to where I remember that. I do. I don't know. It's weird, but
Doing callbacks to older episodes, the Mandela effect.
What about you, Ed? Do you have anything that you want to recommend, or did you
uh,
check
funny enough, I did go on a Monsters Universe kind of watch, halfway watch, I guess you could say. Thursday? No, Wednesday. No, Friday. My bad. Friday. Holy shit. Friday. Watched Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla versus Kong. Pretty much one after the other.
See,
I don't know why. Oh yeah, and that's the thing. I was just like, yeah, I don't know why, but yeah. Got to watch
those two on Netflix, I think.
Yep. Got to watch watch and finish the second season of Shorzy. They are working on third season. The final season of Letterkenny comes out December 26th. So there's that. Honestly, other than that, with a little bit of free time that I do have, been playing MLB The Show 23. Yeah. Trying to learn how to go about it. About it.
All right, guys. That being said, let's get into today's episode. We are talking Oppenheimer. IMDb has it at an 8.5. Rotten Tomatoes is at 93%. The Metascore is at 88%, while the Google users like it at 92%. With a July 21st, 2023 release, it had a $100 million budget and grossed a little over $950 million at the box office. The story of an American scientist, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and his role in the development of the atomic bomb. Starring Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Jason Clarke, Tony Goldwyn, Kenneth Broughton, and Josh Hartnett. Also, Ben Safdie's in there, and it's directed by Christopher Nolan. Zach, we'll start with you. First time versus now. You got to check this out in the theater. What was it like when the movie was over compared to the rewatch?
Yeah, so saw this twice in the theater. First time regular IMAX, the opening weekend, and then a couple weeks later, checked it out in 70 millimeter at Quail Springs Mall. The first time watch, it was everything that I wanted this film to be. I think my initial reaction was there are just too many characters. But after watching it, I was just kind of like, okay, we could have cut some of this out. Does it need to be 3 hours? Second time, I'll admit I kind of dozed off a little bit here and there during some of the scenes, especially the slower scenes. And on this rewatch, honestly, I had a blast with it. I mean, I don't know if it's just I had time to research who Oppenheimer was and just the whole situation and everything. But for this rewatch, it just it solidifies this is easily one of the best movies of the year, in my opinion. So.
I saw this once in the theater. I got to go see it in 70 millimeter. And then I watched it again today. I was kind of worried watching it at home. I didn't know if it'd be one of those 3-hour movies where I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, but I put my phone down and it was good. I got into it. I was kind of like you, Zach.
Sorry.
Ed just looked like a big ass owl right there. No, it was fun. He kind of threw me off my track there.
My bad.
But I put my phone down and I was into it. There wasn't a time that I was bored. I was like you, Zach. I was thinking, should the movie be cut down? But I honestly thought every piece of dialogue, every scene, The black and white sequences, which at first, when I first saw it in the theater, I thought were maybe, oh, those could be cut out. But no, I enjoyed it, and we'll get ready to get into it. So if I had to say one word after both watches, I'll just say intense. Ed, what about you? First time watching it for today?
Yeah. First time I've seen it. I knew roughly what it was about. Hearing the name, understanding the subject matter a little bit, or at least what it was about the time that it was talking about, for that matter. I didn't know it was going to be kind of a Chernobyl similar movie, showing the lead up to, making of, and then court cases and stuff. So that was a heck of a cool thing right there. But yeah.
Nice.
Let's get into it. The 3-hour extravaganza that is Oppenheimer. You have almost 3 different movies, 3 different genres, all in one. This movie is like a giant onion. You just unravel the layers piece by piece throughout the whole thing. And I did this. I kind of did notes and wrote and watched about the movie like I did with like The Godfather, about how every single hour was almost sequenced if you watched it hour by hour. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I did the same thing, and we'll talk about probably just throughout the episode. On the 4K on the 4K disc, there's a about an hour and 10-minute making of documentary, and it just explains like the whole process through the casting, the production design, and everything. And one of the things I learned, and I'm sure you saw it too, Johnny, that Nolan really describes this as 3 films in one, where the first hour is kind of like the origin story for Oppenheimer. 2 is a heist film, kind of getting everybody together to do the Manhattan Project, and 3 is a riveting courtroom drama. And I think that like in each, Nolan did a very good job of like knowing when to cut the line and say, okay, we got to go to the next segment or the next part. The first whole hour, you get Oppenheimer as a young man at Cambridge and everything, him coming back to America, the Florence Pugh character. And then really the hour mark is literally Los Alamos and building the Manhattan Project, and the idea of, if we press this button, are we going to ignite the entire atmosphere? And that, sets the course of this for the rest of the film. And I think it's beautifully well shot, beautifully well done. The screenplay by itself is just phenomenal. What do you guys think?
I mean, so I thought the thoughts getting kind of like put into an actual screen every now and then of the shots of what he was kind of thinking of and all that, as well as the when he was thinking of how the atom could look, it just started, rotating, and then you could see the rotations slightly diverging from, not diverging, pulling apart, but just slightly rotating. That was cool. Thought, the different characters that they introduced here and there was very nice and very subtle, but very, very, very good timing with everything. It wasn't a bad timeline in any way, shape, or form. You could see he was very, very conflicted. A lot of people are, kind of like what happened later in the movie, and a lot of people hail him as a hero. You could tell the moral conflicts, which I'm very sure gone through the actual Oppenheimer's head, because that, you don't just make that and be like, yep, lollipops and rainbows, like this thing, you understand, could potentially take millions, literally, and just buy, and it affect lives after that, and essentially it was hundreds of thousands, but it was a serious enough thing to make him go, okay, look, first off, kind of thing, like let's turn this tide, and I'm out, kind of thing. So I think it done very well in just introducing the thought processes, as well as the feelings, the emotions, the moral concepts, the moral compass and all that kind of different good stuff.
Well, the thing is I think Nolan said that the thing that really hooked him to do this project was the idea of if when they pressed the button, could they have destroyed the entire world in that moment? But to me, the real more interesting thing about this movie is the psychological profile of Oppenheimer. I really don't think he regrets dropping the bomb. I think his greatest regret was the idea of this could be used by anyone. This could be used by it's part of the arsenal of a weaponry system. It's just like that was never our intention of why we built this. I think he truly believed that we have to get to this before the Nazis do, because there's a great line where he says, "Do we really have? Are we morally right to have this power?" And he said, "Well, I know the Nazis are not. I'd rather we have it than they do." So
it was essentially, who has the bigger gun and who gets to the big gun faster, or the even bigger gun faster.
Yeah.
Because, at this time, like, you have to understand, like, yes, the lives of the people who did die in both bombings are tragic, but in that same way, so are all the lives of the innocent that also died in all those camps, all those bombings, being shot, 6 million plus, and I mean, well, I think it's actually over 13 million, if I'm not mistaken, in history. So it's kind of you had to strong arm the hell out of somebody to finally topple that empire down, and it did the trick, but it was at a big cost. So it's kind of like, you're it's a catch-22. You're going to be praised and you're going to be hated. Like, I mean, it's not something that comes without consequences. It's really not.
Is it crazy though that we're living in a world of directors putting out movies nowadays like Scorsese and Christopher Nolan with like Oppenheimer, and like, you go back and look throughout the history of time with film, and I don't think, Zach, you might argue maybe back in the golden age or whatever, but I don't think that we're sitting on a better time of so different many films and so many different directors putting out not just movies but like pieces of art like this. Like, you have to really go back in time to just watch and see what kind of stuff gets put out almost in the same calendar year. And that's what I was thinking about mostly watching this movie. Not only about how good Oppenheimer is and how good everything's put together, because let's face it, it's really a good movie. If 3-hour films aren't your deal, then you'd probably be more focused on going and watching something on Disney Plus or something. But let's be honest, like, this 3-hour movie is almost
it's epic.
Yeah.
So going back into some of the actual details of the real bombs that went off. So I'm going to compare three different bombs. One is Hiroshima at 15 kilotons. 2 is Nagasaki at 21 kilotons. Now, think about like how big that is. Currently, the Tsar bomb, CZAR, is rated at 100 megatons.
Which one is that one? Because we know that the first two are in the movie, and those were dropped.
The Tsar bomb wasn't invented until, like, if I'm not mistaken, the 80s or 90s.
But what is it? Is that like that one that we have?
No, Russia. Tsar bomb. Like, Tsar is like a king over there, basically. It's a big bitch. Think about it, like the Hiroshima bomb was 28 inches tall, if I'm not mistaken, weighing like 140 pounds, and literally had over like I said, had 15 kilotons worth of explosive damage that it could do, or that it did, I guess I should say. That is insane, let alone 100 megatons.
And that's the interesting thing of, like, if you watch like interviews of the real Oppenheimer, like years and years after the Manhattan Project, I think he's truly putting on like an act of like, yeah, I mean, we did what we had to do in order to, not only bring our troops home, but, try to save the world from this type of evil. But deep down, he is very, I don't know if disturbed is the right word, or just emotionally conflicted of the idea of like, I've created a power that is so far beyond me now that, everyone can have it.
Is that you
So
mentioned earlier, like, this movie having like almost three genres in one. You could even maybe throw in like maybe some horror elements too, with the way
Hmm.
he kind of had his visions of what he did almost towards the end too, when he was giving his
dude,
speech,
that was
and then he walked outside and saw what he saw. Um,
so to put the megatons thing in reference, 15 megatons is what was the equivalent of the blast in Chernobyl.
Mm.
Think about that, basically like almost 5 times. And
5 times the power of Chernobyl.
that's the SAR bomb, basically.
Wow.
so we don't want to
Sorry.
make them angry.
No.
Dude, it's all
That's
over the
a
place. I mean,
that's a whole nother conversation.
yeah, but I don't really think we should get into.
What do you guys think about the casting? I think we talked
Oh.
about Cillian Murphy for the 28 Days episode a couple months ago, and I think he's definitely part of Nolan's crew that he goes to. He's in the Dark Knight trilogy, he's in Inception, Dunkirk, and for him to have like this big leading role, I think it shows Nolan as a director say, yeah, I trust you to take this character on.
Bro, I didn't even recognize Robert Downey Jr. for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
I saw the first time you see him, I'm just like, that kind of looks familiar. And it took till the third time you see him, I think, and then I was just like, that's RDJ. Holy crap. The whole bald cap and that. Oh, that was pretty good. Rami Malek came on with a freaking curveball. That was great.
Yeah, the cast was almost watching it in theater. At one point, it was kind of hysterical because you're like, "Oh, look, there's that guy, and then you see the president, Gary Oldman. And you're like, okay, you're like, is this a rib or what's going on?
Then even some of the names they mentioned,
Josh Peck was in it, I think.
Josh Hartnett.
He was the isotope guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who honestly, if you guys could talk about Cillian Murphy, but I think Matt Damon just was entertaining throughout this whole movie. I think it shows, Matt Damon was I think in an interview he was like, I'm done for 2023. I'm not going to do any more movies or something like that. But
unless Christopher Nolan calls.
Yeah, and he did.
I think the one that really, I think Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr., which are both excellent, are going to get the noms for the Oscar. But Emily Blunt, I think she's phenomenal. You really want to hate her as a character, but her that character of Kitty, in doing some of the research, she was actually I think she hated the idea of she just became like a housewife when in actuality she was a very smart biologist. Like she could have had her own life and did her own thing, but she got pregnant and got pinned down with the 2 kids. And that scene where he comes home and he says, shouldn't you go to him? He said, I've done that all day. I'm done. It's just like, damn,
dude, that was intense as hell.
I didn't know anything about the movie going into it. I knew just what the subject matter was, but there was a point in time when I was in the movie theater, I thought Emily Blunt's character was going to kill one of those kids, like legit.
Yeah. Well,
I thought she was just going to rabbit Wolverine one of them.
Well, in actuality, they both did not want to be parents, Robert and Kitty. And when that scene where he went to the friend's house, said, "Hey, can you just watch him for a little bit?" In actuality, what happened was just like what actually happened was that he went to someone that he worked with that wasn't able to have kids, and said, "Hey, can you watch our son for a little bit?" And she said, "Oh yeah, sure." And there was like a brief moment, and he's like, "If you want to keep him, that's fine." Like he literally, like he was definitely a man who only wanted to focus on his work or what his ambitions were. He felt like he did not have the capability of being a parent. And obviously Kitty didn't because she became a raging alcoholic.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Sure, I mean, but
I
what
mean,
do you guys think about?
I think it would go before. Go ahead, Zach. I was just gonna say, I think it would take us like a whole hour just to go through each surprise character that was in the movie and spend a
Oh
little
my
bit of time
God,
on each one.
Josh Hartnett, Rami Malek, Kenneth Branagh, Benny Safdie, who I was like, damn, like you direct, but you can also act like this. Like, wow, that's incredible.
Even the guy
But I
who
mean,
what's his name? The guy who was Bernard in the original Santa Claus movie. He played the
yeah,
little chubby Brooklyn guy.
yep,
Yeah.
What's his name?
Albie, I think his name is
Albie.
Albie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he reminded me of
and
Paul
then
Heyman.
Florence Pugh, who that character,
Now let's
she
spend a little
definitely.
let's spend a little bit of time on the Florence Pugh character because there's a lot of people, a lot of reviews are like, yeah, this movie's great and fantastic, but was her scene
Necessary.
necessary, and was her character really necessary? What do you guys think?
I think it's necessary for one to particular purpose, and the idea that Oppenheimer already know he's going to have a lot of people's blood on his hands with the making of this weapon. But the idea of that he couldn't commit to this relationship and she ultimately took her own life.
Her suicide was on his hands.
Yeah, like he already has blood and I don't think he even really realizes it, and it's only going to get a lot worse as his life goes on.
Oh yeah, he definitely realizes it. I was one of those people when the movie first came out. I was like, man, was that scene really necessary? But then going through it, you're like, man, as long as each story and each scene in the movie has a payoff, then you're like, yeah, it's kind of worth it. And
well, the scene, if you're talking about the scene where they're like in the middle of the conference and it's like the weird sex scene as it like transitions.
Oh no, like I'm just talking about her as a general. That is
that character.
Even that scene itself pays off really because you can see the that's just the jealousy and the hate that his wife has while he's explaining, right. Why he needed to be there and why he he feels like she was still in love with him.
She was visualizing them together, and it was just that's the point of the scene.
So as long as the story and the characters have a payoff, I think then by all means it should be in there. So that also explains if there's anybody complaining or if there's anybody like trying to backtrack on why Oppenheimer was gone or why he snuck off, to the true story. You might think, oh, he was, given details and given notes to maybe the other side, when all reality he was escaping just to have an affair.
Yeah, that's true.
So again, every scene pays off. I think that's why I don't think this movie had cut anything out. What were you about to ask?
I agree. That was the question. Just about, I was going to bring up Florence Pugh and just her role in the whole movie. What do you think about it, Ed?
I mean, it makes sense in some aspects. It didn't have to be in there though. But yeah, in the thought that that's what he was actually doing wasn't to sneak off and be a spy, but he was actually going to just get some tail, I mean, at the same time, like, should have just said, hey, look, if we're going to be real in this.
He was creating another atomic bomb.
This is what was going on.
Yeah.
This is part of my personal life. You can ask her. You can talk to her. Don't care.
Oh, wait, she's dead.
Well, shit.
Well, and that kind of goes into like the whole from like hour to the 2 hour mark is essentially, is there a possible spy in Los Alamos? How did Russia get these capabilities? All this and that. One of the most powerful scenes in the movie, and it's such an easy scene. It's a scene you could cut, but like you said, it's so essential. Is when they're discussing potential target sites, like, oh well, we could drop it on a military base, or we could do this, or there's the one senator that's just like, well, take Dakota off the list because that's where me and my wife honeymoon. So it's like, wow, it doesn't sound like they put a lot of thought and effort into this, but they really did. Just the whole concept of, we really want to show the power of what we have. We want to drop it on one just to show the power, but the second one we want to drop just because we want to let the world know that we can do this more than one time.
Zach, you said something about going off and talking about a atomic bomb rant. What kind of rant would that be?
It was just the whole notion of, are people going to watch this and be like, we're such a PC politically correct time frame right now. Is this, we can make the argument that this movie made money because it was part of the Barbie effect, or did people go to this and be like, they were interested in it, they were absolutely enthralled with it, and then you actually have the debate, which I think Christopher Nolan's whole intention of the film is to be, what were we right in doing this? Was it wrong? Should we have dropped it? Because the movie makes clear arguments that, we were about to drop the bomb on Germany, but Hitler committed suicide, so Germany surrendered. There are people that say Japan was a defeated enemy in it to begin with, or they weren't going to last as long as we thought. But what if it didn't? What if the war had gone for another 3 years? It's just the whole notion of, like I said, we're such in a politically correct time right now. It's just like, was Oppenheimer going to get canceled because of this movie, even though he's been dead for like 50 plus years?
You talking about, was the movie going to get canceled? Like, were people going to see more into it than normal and just like boycott the movie because it had so much to do with so much violence and so much, like you said?
Yeah, I mean, just we don't need to watch a movie just because, it's one of the argument of, if we don't watch it, then it didn't happen. It's just like, no, that, it's just one of those type arguments.
Like how some people say the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah, even though we got museums and we literally have you can go visit the actual concentration camps. Yeah,
I think that's interesting to point out, to say that maybe this movie only made that much money because of it came out on the same weekend as Barbie and everybody was going and doing the double feature kind of thing. Or, like you said, is it because of all the backlash of the movie? I didn't even check. Did this movie even get released in like Japan?
I think so, yeah.
And then second off,
well, there are people that got pissed off that they didn't show the carnage of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
I don't think you need to see the carnage, though.
You
it's almost it's the effect. Maybe if somebody else directed it, like Michael Bay,
Oh my God.
No. I'm not being serious. Like, maybe if somebody else directed it, like Michael Bay, or just somebody who's into those kind of action or even / horror movies. But like, for somebody like Christopher Nolan to direct it, I think you have so much respect for the director and for what he puts into his work on the screen. That would almost tarnish the film, I think, if you showed stuff like that. If you want to see that kind of carnage, go look on YouTube,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't really think it needed to show the bombs in any way, shape, or form. I mean, honestly, like,
because the whole subject matter is the guy creating it, testing it, and then the aftermath and about the backlash.
Like, I could see actually showing the physical bomb and then it getting loaded, and that's it. I could see that.
They did that though, right?
Yeah,
they did. Like, they kind of did it. Like, they loaded up the second bomb, like, and Oppenheimer's watching them like crate it up as it leaves the base or whatever.
But like, that would be the most, I think, because literally, like, that would be needed in a movie like this, because it wasn't necessarily about that. Exactly like you just said, it was about the guy who was the leader of the task force, or the engineers or scientists or whatever that made this bomb.
And
it
Zach,
wasn't about the bombs.
Without Oppenheimer, Zach, you wouldn't have your beloved Godzilla movies.
Without Oppenheimer, without that happening,
you're joking. You're joking,
anime
but
wouldn't
truly
exist either.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a joke, but truly, Godzilla came out of the fear of atomic energy and dropping the bomb on Hiroshima. That was Japan's reaction to
way of coping in a way.
Yeah, and I think like
I have another joke, but I think it's way over the line.
Yeah, you got your joke. You got your joke. Well, and like I agree. I totally agree with you guys. I wasn't one of the nitpickers of like, oh, they didn't show them blowing Hiroshima up or whatever. The scene where he's addressing all the other people in like the town hall meeting or whatever, and he starts having visions of like death, and like you see the woman, it's like her flesh is like being like melted off, and then you see like it cuts and it's just like ash all over the stands. That was perfect. That's all you needed. Like just like his realization of like, this is what's going on right now, and I had something to do with it.
Because I mean, essentially at the same time, like he understood what these chemicals and what this energy could do, what this radiation could do, what this level of radiation could do.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, it was necessarily like a thing that I think is funny or cool. It's not in any way, shape, or form. But at the time, unfortunately, it was made to be a necessity, a bit of a necessity. And
wasn't this the backlash of Pearl Harbor?
Somewhat,
the Michael Bay
yes.
movie, where it's just like, oh, you're showing the action just for action's sake and not really showing like the traumatic.
Oh no, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm or like the sequence of the movie.
No, he's talking about the real event.
Oh, the real
yes.
Pearl Harbor.
I mean, essentially it was, but this was also to show like, hey, this is going to keep happening if it keeps on, because you've done this, you've done that, you've now attacked us. We had to get into it. We're tired of this. Stop.
Well, and you also got to remember, it really wasn't Japan that they had their eye on. It was Germany. The idea that Heisenberg, Walter White, got to split the atom before they did, that just set the train rail on a whole different direction. The idea of Oppenheimer realizes in that moment what that means and what they're capable of doing, which is building a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing, because now it's a race of time of who gets to it first. It's not if it happens, it's when. This could happen to us. And I mean, they're wrong.
Yeah.
If Germany got to it first, who the hell knows what would have happened?
Yeah.
Who knows? Legitly. And it's not even a thing of like, no, it's real. Like, who knows what would have happened?
When you guys either went to the theater or sat down and watched the movie, did you think that there was going to be a clear-cut villain in this movie? Essentially, like before you realize what the whole thing with Robert Downey Jr. is, did you think that there was an ultimate villain, or do you think it was just the moral?
I thought it was just going to be
what Oppenheimer was,
an account of possible realizations. Like I said, I didn't really know much about it going in, but once it started to line up, kind of like a Chernobyl kind of deal, that's. Yeah,
I thought this movie was going to do the whole 1-2 double punch and make you go in appreciating and pulling for Oppenheimer to where it would do that double stick and make you by the end of the movie hate Oppenheimer and make you think that he's the protagonist.
Yeah. So like when it actually was revealed that Robert Downey Jr. his character of Strauss is trying to not only discredit him but also get rid of his security clearance, just because in his words that Oppenheimer turned the scientist against him. Did you like that twist, or did you think it was kind of like, because that's the whole thing we're building towards essentially without building the nuclear weapon?
It was that, and then they said about an embarrassment of a public embarrassment due to something in Norway.
Yeah, like it was like when Oppenheimer was like testifying, it was like, yeah, you could have used a sandwich or whatever, and it cuts to Strauss, and he's just like, damn, this dude just like humiliated me in front of everybody, essentially.
Which I get being embarrassed, and but then now you're gonna go ahead and just screw this dude over on another level. That's pettiness, full on pettiness, man.
And I also like the idea of it's clearly established, and Oppenheimer never joined the Communist Party, but he had communist ties. His brother was in the Communist Party. His brother's wife was Jean Tatlock, Florence Pugh's character was. Just by association, especially during that time, you were automatically considered a communist, even though you don't have a card and you never joined the party.
Yeah, because and what a lot of people don't really understand or wouldn't understand, especially of our generation and later, would be that
was a big deal back in the day.
Oh yeah, ultimate deal. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like, do you like America, or are you with America, or are you against us? Because if you're against us, we can just go ahead and deal with this right now. Right. Like, it's cool, kind of thing. It wasn't even a thing of like. It wasn't even a thing of like, are you selling secrets out? It's are you a part of the organization? Yeah. Okay.
You're out. Yeah.
Basically go from there.
Well, and I like how during the testify scenes, they always ask about like, well, why did you go overseas to study quantum mechanics? Because we didn't have an organization. Why didn't you study here? Because I hadn't made the program yet. He has an answer for everything, and you really side with Oppenheimer during those scenes, because it's like, dude, just stop. You clearly, this is like garbage.
The one that was going after him, I did not like.
I think Jason Clarke. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they're wrong. He played the character very, very well, but it was just like, dude, calm the fuck down. Like, this guy is not. I don't know. He just.
Yeah, but I think you get that payoff with when Kitty has to testify. It's just like, were you a member of the Communist Party? Yeah, 16 years. Oh, 17. No, 18 years ago. Like, it's such a dark, like, comic moment. But, like, you really root for her.
Oh, she was a hardcore thing of strength. I mean, honestly. I kind of felt the same way, because whenever he did shake his hand, I'd been like, go ahead and go fuck off, dude. Like, you can go on.
We didn't even get to mention yet a lot of like how much work and production. I mean, in the special features you get to watch, Christopher Nolan even they created a whole new way of filming with IMAX black and white, something that had never been done before. Do you think stuff like this? The budget was only $100 million, but with all the stuff you see, all the cast members that were just like. This massive cast, the IMAX exclusive cameras, the black and white IMAX. Like, man, there's money maybe that not even been brought up to, or this $100 million doesn't seem like a lot of money, but for everything they did in this movie, it feels like it has the budget of an Avengers movie of like say $300 to $400 million budget, but it didn't.
Well, the fact that you said that it only cost $100 million, and the fact that everything was almost practical. The whole entire Los Alamos set was built from scratch.
Even when Oppenheimer had the image in his mind and he was just staring off in a blank space and he saw what the atom would look like, even all that was practical. Nothing was CGI in this movie.
Yeah, and the fact that this movie made almost $1 billion, Universal's got to be so happy with this, And I think anytime, and that was something I wanted to bring up to you guys. I'll ask this question in a minute. The fact that Christopher Nolan really took the time, and I think that's the key word here. He took time writing out the script, getting the right actors, making this look as real as possible. The fact that they shot, I think they said 60 miles north of the real Los Alamos, and was able to film on some of the real locations, that takes dedication. And I feel like if you're not Nolan or Scorsese or whoever, we just don't get that a lot anymore in film. A lot of the, if this was not Nolan, I guarantee you 80, maybe 90% of this movie would have been CGI, honestly. So,
what do you guys think of just like, my comments earlier about a time and age where these directors are just putting out, the and of course there's artsy like films that comes out every year, obviously, but this year is one of the first few years where these artsy like movies are making hundreds of millions of dollars. Like people are starting to go see these kinds of movies. I'm interested to see what Napoleon does. I haven't seen the numbers, but I don't think it's going to be as good as Killers of the Flower Moon or Oppenheimer. I don't know, but it's Ridley Scott, so we'll see.
It got mixed reviews. It came in second this weekend at the box office behind Hunger Games. So, I mean, the fact that you got a Napoleon movie that, a lot of people wouldn't even know. I think a lot of people don't even know who Napoleon is in this day and age.
It's
that's
an
a whole
ice
other
cream,
discussion.
right?
Yeah.
Napolitan.
So, well, and I guess I'll just ask my question. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Do you guys consider this to be like artistic douchebaggery, where no one says, "Oh, you only have to see my theaters in the theater," or Scorsese thinks Marvels are which we've talked about theme park rides, or does it? As an audience member, do you appreciate it, or do you think it's just like, shut up? Like, I can just wait for this to hit on Peacock.
I think you have to appreciate it. We talked to a local independent director a few weeks ago, who's located out of the East Coast, and I think he said it perfectly. It's America's entertainment pastime of going to the movie theater and seeing whether it's a weird sci-fi movie like Starship Troopers, or whether it's something like The Irishman. Just, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just the fact of seeing it on the biggest screen possible, with an environment of a crowd around you, maybe a Coke, maybe some popcorn. I think it's just, I think you have to appreciate it while it lasts, because it may not be there forever.
Yeah.
And I mean that's the thing. Everybody's got their own subjective opinion. It's your opinion. So I mean, if they want to say these Marvel movies just suck ass, I don't care for them. I don't like them. They're just a bunch of guys in costumes, hoity-toity. Yes, but at the same time, so technically are yours. They might not be flying around and have hammers and hardcore tech that's cool and super serum that makes them a soldier. But all in all, it's the same thing across the board. Like they're wrong. This, for example, this whole podcast, not everybody does this, but there are a lot of people who could do this. We just started it. That's all it is. We just took that jump and kept going. That's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain it anymore. Like, people can have an opinion and say we're just, we're great, we're idiotic.
I think
that's cool.
I don't think, to answer Zach's question, I don't think it matters what you go see out on the big screen or what you go see in theaters. Just I think you should. I think you should try to at least take the time to go see it.
Open mind, we've always said, open mind, man. Don't base every single thing you do, say, or try on what other people do, say, and try. Because don't get me wrong, I might like something that he will never like, or he may like something I do, but I hate it secretly, and he's like, dude, this is the best thing ever. But I'm like, I just do it because you do it. This sucks,
Well, it's something completely different when someone says, I tried to watch Oppenheimer. I got 30 minutes into it and I couldn't do it. Than to say, oh, that looks terrible, I don't want to watch it. You're not even giving the movie a chance, honestly.
Yeah.
But to go back on what you said, Zach, though, the directors or whoever puts the movies out right now, at least, aren't really giving a lot of people to check out the movie because of them waiting so long to put it on either Max or Universal or Peacock. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where the director is, I'm not saying milking the product as much as possible, but they're definitely trying to get every cent that they possibly can before they just release it to streaming. And that's probably the studio.
I think it's that, and I just think Oppenheimer. I mean, not Oppenheimer. Nolan is very much like Tarantino or Scorsese or Spielberg, where it's just like, I want you to see my movie, but I want you to see it like I want you to experience it on the biggest screen possible. That's why he releases these in like 70 millimeter IMAX. Where you have your eye sees the complete image without having to look away or anything. I think a lot of people are like, well, why is this filmed in IMAX if there's just a lot of people like sitting in courtrooms all day?
Well, there's also like I've heard it going through the halls of theaters and hearing it at the mall, like, and then reading comments on the internet. There's like, well, why can't I just watch it on a regular screen? Why do I have to spend extra to go see it on 70 millimeter? Why do I have to go to an IMAX? Like, to a lot of people, at the end of the day, it's just a movie, and they just want to see it on a screen.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I don't know. I just feel like we're just in a time where, like, people's attention spans are just not, if they can't sit through if they can sit through a 30-second TikTok video, they're not going to sit through a 3-hour film. It's just, that's just where we are. That's just where we are as a society right now, essentially, But
I think most people just it has to catch your interest, because if it doesn't catch your interest, or if you're not interested in it at the time, and I mean, honestly, a lot of people, like you said, will go for something that's 30, 40 seconds or even 2-3 minutes compared to 3 hours, because attention spans are kind of lessening. People don't want to go ahead and be interested in something like this. People want to be interested in something like Spider-Man or the Avengers or
Barbie.
It's also, though, like
Barbie,
It's also like we have so much entertainment now at the tip of our fingertips. Like, where can somebody find the time to go give their attention to a 3-hour movie compared to, like, oh, hey, this one's only an hour and a half. Let me just go spend an hour and a half at this one.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
well, two more things I want to talk about before we wrap it up. The actual Trinity explosion, where they actually test the bomb, that was probably one of the best things I've seen. That I was on, like, sitting on the edge of my seat during that in the theater, and the fact that when they actually press the button and the bomb goes off, it's just silence, and you hear Oppenheimer's breath the entire time. It's awesome.
The movie could have ended right there, and I think you got your money's worth.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very horrific scene, but it's all done in a silent motion, essentially, And then the last thing I want to talk about, ultimately, what is revealed, what Oppenheimer and Einstein were talking about, and essentially what makes the movie is, they talk, essentially they're at the pond, and Oppenheimer says, hey, do you remember when I gave you those equations about whether we had blown up the world? Is it the chain reaction? And he said, yeah. What about it? He said, yeah, I think we made a chain reaction, but it's even worse. And then you see the rockets being ready to launch in the air, almost like a nuclear holocaust is going to happen. It's the idea of
nuclear winter.
Yeah, well, we thought the worst thing was blowing up the atmosphere, but now this type of power is out and anyone can use it. That just like, and it's just him closing his eyes, and that's the end of the movie. It's just like that's perfect. That's how you end this.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful one.
So,
yeah.
You guys have anything else?
A tale of 3 different movies, almost.
A trinity, if you will.
Yeah. No, I honestly think we could have spent 2 hours talking about this movie and still not covered it in every single base that maybe we wanted to.
Yep. There is, if you are interested, Johnny, there is a documentary on the 4K Blu-ray called "To End All War: Oppenheimer and the Atomic Bomb."
I did start that. I think I was like an hour into it, and I couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't hit the button on the disc and see how long the actual documentary was.
The moral came in for you.
It's an hour and a half, so it's like a real full-length documentary about the real Oppenheimer. I wanted to watch it.
I was I was almost done then.
So, I guess we'll start with you. You have a favorite scene or scenes in this movie?
I would say the scene when Rami Malek came up and just killed Strauss's whole thing right there, or started the downfall of Strauss, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That would be mine.
Okay. I'm gonna say the ending, just the worst chain reaction that he's finally realized what he's created. The visions of death, where he addresses the town, and he starts seeing like ash and like charred bodies and everything. And then honestly, it's a character moment when he tells Matt Damon's Groves is like, yeah, there's a near 0% chance that we'll blow up the world, and he's just like, near zero. It's like, what do you want from quantum mechanics? It's like, well, 0 would be good. So it's kind of like a black comedy moment where it's just like, man, like we're literally about to test this, but we could blow up the world. So
If I had to say any favorite scenes, it'd be anytime Matt Damon's on screen. I think Matt Damon just runs away with this. Also leading up to the 2-hour mark where they do test the bomb, like you said, Zach, I thought that was phenomenal filmmaking. And then honestly, the interrogation scenes with
Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke. I thought Jason Clarke was a fantastic piece of ass in this one. Just as like how he's doing his job, but he's just the scenes that he's in makes you just want to hate him.
Yeah.
And then you know what, Tony Goldwyn. It's always good to see him on screen, and I enjoy everything, whether it's big or little, that he does. So
yeah,
he doesn't get enough recognition, or I don't think we even talked about him in this movie. So, but
that just shows how many people are in this movie. And like you said, when you were sitting in the theater watching, like, God damn, did he just get people off the street and say, hey, Josh Hartnett, come on, Rami Malek, come on?
Probably,
just like,
wow. I didn't know Josh Hartnett was still acting. He probably paid him $20 to come in and do these scenes.
Yeah, that's true.
This is it, man. Star rating. Zach, we'll start with you.
Man, I'm gonna give it a 10. I think this is easily one of the best movies of the year. It'll be in I'm sure all of us will have it probably in our top 5 plus 5 of 2023. Performances, direction, cinematography, practical effects. Just as a film fan, this is why you go. And when you open the movie, and the first shot is just rain drops, and you see like the ripple effect. It's perfect how the movie starts out. It tells you everything you need to know about this. So, I'm gonna give it a 10. Is it Nolan's best movie? You can make an argument for it. I still think The Dark Knight and Dunkirk are up there. So, but yeah, this is 10 out of 10 for me. What about you, Ed?
Before July, I had no movies that were 10. And then it's like movies started coming out July 21st. Boom, I had some back-to-back 10s. But this second time around, I'm still going to give it a 10. To me, it's a perfect piece of filmmaking. Christopher Nolan, the performances, the storytelling that shakes your inner soul. The last hour is probably the most incredible and intense probably that I've seen all year. I think it's one of Christopher Nolan's best movies he's ever done. I think it even outdoes The Dark Knight. Do yourself a favor. Go buy it. Go see it. If you get a chance to see it in the theater again on a re-release, go see it. The moment it hits the Peacock, go see it. Make it a priority the moment it hits streaming. But I think it's a 10.
Nice. What about you, Ed?
I would agree. 10. I mean, honestly, this movie has so much good in it. It's not even funny. Whether you want to hate the persons, whether you want to go ahead and be with. Like, I'm sorry, if you can't find something you enjoy in this movie, you're probably asleep. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah. John and we kind of had a conversation after we saw Killers of the Flower Moon and thought maybe that movie was a little bit better. I was going to ask. I mean, do you see Nolan winning Best Director for this? I think he totally deserves it, but it's hard against Scorsese.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think once you look down and look at the criteria of how they put the formula together for Best Director,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a two-way race. I don't see anybody coming out fighting for third. I don't see any dark horse director coming out and doing anything. I literally think it's between those two.
Except for James Wan for Aquaman. I mean, you got to put that in there. So
I just saw that trailer before we started recording, honestly, and went live. And I looked to myself. I was thinking to myself, I would be okay if they just did away with that movie and canceled the entire thing.
Yeah,
but who knows? In all reality, it still looks like it could be fun. The last Aquaman made $1 billion, so let's see. And Abdul Mateen is in it, so I want to go see that as well.
Yeah,
but when it comes to Oscar season and Best Director, like I said, I think it's just down to the two, and we'll see what movie outlasts. It's really hard because I just got done watching Killers of the Flower Moon a few weeks ago, but
it's tough. It's very tough. So, well, until then, guys, what are we talking about next week?
Next subject matter, Wednesday, December the 6th. We're talking the 40th anniversary of Scarface. The World is His, and it's available on Netflix. Go check it out. We kick off December with Scarface. Should be a fun conversation. The week after that, it's the 20th anniversary of The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. The week before Christmas, we're talking another movie that came out of nowhere that made a lot of money this young 2023 season, Sound of Freedom. And like Zach said, we end the year with our top 5 plus 5 Christmas movies of all time. Guys, this is our first top 5 episode since April, if that's hard to believe.
Wow.
We only had 2 of them this year.
Well, as a Christmas gift, we like to say thank you. And who doesn't like lists for Christmas as a Christmas gift?
Yeah. And then January is right around the corner. But guys, November's done. November's in the bag. What are you guys most looking forward to for December? Any episodes or any moments that you guys are looking forward to? We're about to create a lot of moments, I know, with Scarface next week. So
I don't know until they come up.
Ed, is this going to be first time watch for you? Have you seen Scarface before?
At least 6 times, yes.
You've seen this movie 6 times? I've only seen that movie once in its entirety, and
have you already watched it for the rewatch?
It is cockroaches.
No. You haven't seen it yet?
It is like
that's okay.
I don't want to watch it. Dude.
Take another Quaalude. Love me in the morning. Shit.
So this is what we're talking about next week. 20th anniversary, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, 3 hours and 25 minutes long. Zach, if you're not looking forward to Scarface, I'm not looking forward to Return of the King.
That's fair. That's fair.
The girthiness of that movie is just, it's going to rip my insides out.
It's funny. We, I don't want to see Scarface. You don't want to see Return of the King. But then we come together and we want to talk about Sound of Freedom.
The world, Chico, and everything in it.
And then it's always fun to do a top 5 plus 5 with you guys. It's always fun to see what makes the list and what doesn't. So,
hey, you want a job, Ernie? Huh?
It's going to be interesting. I also think for the top 5 plus 5 Christmas movies, I think we're also going to maybe throw in, like we do for our award season, I think we're going to talk about our 5 worst holiday movies as well.
Sorry.
Already throwing out bullets. We don't even got to the episode yet.
But yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed our talk on Oppenheimer. Go check it out. It's one of the best movies of the year. If you don't think so, send us in some emails, and we'll try to
get them.
We'll get to it real soon.
All I have in this world is my balls in my world, and I don't break them for no one.
See, there's our Scarface episode. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Also, I think next week we have to talk our top 5 Al Pacino movies. So top 5 is coming back next week. We will talk our top 5 Al Pacino movies on Scarface. So don't forget, join us next week, episode 274, as we talk Scarface on another new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.